We're going live. Hey, everybody. Hope you're all having a wonderful morning. My name is Brittany, and I will be your studio host today. Today, we have a lovely artist named Allie. I will get her to show some examples of what she can do in a moment. I'm just going to do a little bit of housekeeping and let you guys know a few things. So make sure to share the YouTube link with your friends who are interested in art so they can check out today's live too. Here's a link for it. Hi, I'm seeing morning from Boston. Hello, morning from Alabama, from Vancouver. Fellow Canadian, I'm also from Canada. Thank you all for coming. If you missed the first couple minutes there, my name is Brittany and we have Allie with us today. Allie, where are you from?
I'm in Wisconsin, kind of middle of the state.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Alrighty, so we're gonna get started in just a moment. If you guys have any questions, don't be shy. Feel free to ask. We do a Q&A session at the end. So if I don't get to your question during the actual session, don't worry, I'll ask it at the end. We'll stop about 5 or 10 minutes before the end of today's hour-long session. And if you're wondering about her mini workshop, I will also post a link for that in a moment. Today is a live demonstration of what Allie's style and what you'll be kind of learning in the mini workshop. She's going to be going at her own pace today. You can always watch it again later, but if you want to do a step-by-step lesson with Allie, that's where the mini workshop comes in. So don't be afraid to check that out. I will drop a link right now. It is on July 21st. It's an hour and a half long. And there's the link. So without further ado, I will stop talking and I will let Allie take over here. Allie, do you want to show us a little bit of the stuff that you do?
Yeah. So I am a watercolor artist and pet portrait artist. So I have the pure joy of watercoloring all of the most adorable dogs. Are you able to see my screen okay?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm just going to scroll through a few of these past examples. Yeah, so I work in all watercolor, and I've done, I think, over 50 different dogs over the last 3 to 4 years. It truly is like a childhood dream come true. I've always loved drawing dogs, and then recently after college,
So cute.
I know, that one I love. After college, I came home and I decided to just try something new. So I picked up watercolor. And this one we'll be going through a little, some examples on this black lab today. But yeah, I came home and I picked up watercolor and I had never tried it really before. So I did a lot of practice. Naturally, watercolor was a difficult one for me to start with, but I just came home every day after work and I just kept practicing, and anywhere from florals to then what became pet portraits. And then from there, I just started sharing it and it took off. So those are some fun past examples that I've done. So I'll be going through like all the different textures and color mixing today specifically. Won't necessarily get through a full portrait, but just gonna kind of dabble and show my process.
Love it.
So yeah, are we all ready?
Yeah, we're all good to go whenever you are.
Sweet. Yep. So just to kind of run through the brushes that I'm going to be using, I really love the Etcher pointed round brush set that I have. There's many brushes, but I specifically like to use like 3 different ranges of sizes. So like a big one, like a 12, 8 or a 6, and then all the way down to a 3. And then I just always use my tried and trusty 00 brush for the really fine details at the end or the eyes. I love pointed brushes mostly because they are so versatile. You can get like a really wide brush stroke all the way down to a thin brush stroke. So it's kind of like, I'm so used to drawing. That was where I really have my experience. So it feels natural to me to use a pointed round brush. So I have already sketched these out, my 3 different portraits of these pups. So I'm actually, what I like to do is once I get the sketch down, I'll go back through with an eraser and then lift up some of that dark pencil line, especially in the really light dogs. Like this is going to be almost a pure white dog. Because once the paint and the water hit the page, you can't erase the pencil mark. It won't be quite as noticeable on the black lab here, but just getting it about as light as I can still see it. And then to my right, you can't really see, but I do have my reference photos. So I always keep those right by my side on my iPad.
If you're curious about, sorry to cut you off there, Allie. If you're curious about the reference photo and you want to be able to look at it as well, if you are attempting to follow along today, I dropped it earlier, but I'll put it in again just in case.
But yeah, so the best, I get super excited about really good reference photos. The better, I always like to tell my customers is that the better the reference photo, the more clear the photo, the better the portrait will turn out, just because you can see more of the details naturally. I can't imagine how hard it is to get your dog to really sit and stare and smile.
use like the treat trick.
Yes.
By the camera.
I'm quite amazed by the photos I do get to paint from. So it is pretty cool. Okay. Something like that. So I just am going to work my way down on these 3 dogs. The first one I am going to do is an English cream golden retriever. And so this dog has a lot of light colors, but just because it has a white, fur coat, that it actually has a lot of colors to build up the layers and make it look more realistic. So any type of lighter dog like that, I'm just going to show some color mixing right now. And I love to start with the ears, so I'll get some of the ear mixing in. I'm using a yellow ochre, and then I like to pair it with a Payne's Gray. And this is the palette I normally work from. It's very messy, but this is, I have a lot of areas that I know, like this is a really useful area for me for my dog colors. So I'm going to try and recreate that in a little bit of a cleaner scale here and mixing it with umbers. So you're going to get kind of a muddy wash like that. So that was the yellow ochre, the Payne's Gray, and then the brown umber. Van Dyke brown is also really popular for the work that I do. So again, now we still need a little bit more of that golden color that appears in the ear. So I'll use the yellow ochre and I'll mix it with some of the sienna browns, burnt umber colors. And then when it comes to this dog's nose, has a really unique nose. It has kind of red and brown undertones. So I'll use a little bit of red, mix with some browns. So it'll be a mix of this color along with the Payne's Gray. So I'd never use black in my portraits. Payne's Gray is really my go-to. It just creates a really pretty rich color. And then I'll also mix that with any browns, will give me almost what appears to be a black without actually using a true black.
And why do you not use a true black?
It just seems to give it more character. You know, I've
Mhm.
always kind of learned that through art school, is they always teach you to stay away from pure black. I wouldn't necessarily say that that's essential. I have used a pure black, especially in the nostril, if I really need to get the darkest darks. But I just really love the way that the browns mix with this Payne's Gray and creates kind of a more rich muddy color rather than like what you would expect. It's a little more unexpected.
Right.
Okay, so I am going to start with my English Cream Golden Retriever here. And I likely won't get through this whole portrait. I'm going to kind of move through this so we can just see color mixing on all the dogs and textures. But I will be teaching the English Cream Golden in my mini workshop, the full portrait. So right now what I'm doing is going to lay down the base layer, just mixing the yellow ochre and the brown Van Dyke brown. And just going to start with a lot of water, pushing some of that paint around on those first layers. An 8x10 portrait is usually the size that I work with. And they usually take me anywhere from about 3 to 4 hours from start to finish. So this is definitely about the size of a 5x7. So I love to start with the ears. They're the least pressure. So just laying that color in there. This is just first layer of many to come.
So when you say the ears are like less pressure, is that like less pressure if you make a little mistake, you can
Yeah.
go back and fix it later? Yeah.
Yeah. They're always the best place, I always feel like, to warm up and get comfortable, getting to know the colors. Of course, you should swatch them out on a scrap paper.
Yeah. We got a
But
question here earlier.
yeah.
Sorry to cut you off.
No, this is great.
We got a question here earlier. I noticed that you did 3 different kinds of dogs, and 2 of them are like Labrador retrievers. Is that like one of your favorite dog breeds?
I really couldn't even tell you a favorite. As far as painting, I love painting curly dogs. Those are truly my most fun portraits I love to paint. But yeah, I wouldn't say the labs or any specific breed is my favorite. We have an English setter. I really have enjoyed seeing so many photos of dogs over the years.
I love labs personally. I grew up with them.
Oh,
Curious as to what everybody else's favorite dog breed is. If you have one, mention it in the chat.
yeah, I'd love to know too. Okay, so I've been using the wet on wet technique. I'm just going to let that area dry. And then I'm going to start to work more in the forehead area. And you'll see some dark shadows. So this portrait's going to rely heavily on the shadow areas and really making sure that we don't overdo the really light areas. So just working light, and it helps to sculpt in the direction of the hair.
Oh, someone said a Westie. Another person likes Chihuahuas.
Cute. I actually have never painted a Westie.
I'm trying to remember. I feel like those are like a small curly dog.
Yeah, they have, they're all white. They're very poised looking. They're about the size of, I bet they're about 20 pounds, I would say.
Okay. Yeah, I think I know which dog it is now that I think about it. Those are cute.
Yeah, they're definitely like a movie-like dog.
Hmm. Kat here says a boxer, Frenchie, and a pit bull. Pam says wire fox terrier. Nice.
Very cool.
Got a lot of dog lovers here.
That's awesome. I love it. I was obsessed with dogs, always growing up.
Hey, man's best friend.
I know. They really are the best. Except for ours last night decided to chew on the carpet. So I don't know if that applies for ours as of today, but otherwise.
So you're hitting the mouth now. I see you're adding
I
some
am.
depth.
So yeah, I am kind of moving around, and I will say that a lot of the times I just go to the beat of how I feel and where I feel like kind of how things are coming together. You'll see that I leave the eyes always for the end. So I'm just blocking in more of the areas with the same color, kind of muddyish, grayish brown wash.
And you leave the eyes for the end because you think they're the most like difficult or you have to be the most precise.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. Definitely the most pressure part of the whole portrait. You can notice if an eye doesn't look right. So I usually wait until I feel really warmed up.
Hmm.
Now with a lighter dog like this, I'll jump to them a little bit sooner just so I can see a little bit more contrast. But I'm really just working with the Van Dyke Brown, and then the Payne's Gray is giving me that muddy color. And I like to drop in the color in some of the areas while it's still wet for the wet on wet technique to create that first washed layer. And then as I wait for it to dry, I'll come back and start to add the actual texture of the fur. But I love the blue hues to the Payne's Gray. It's definitely a most used paint color in my palette.
It's really nice with like the white fur too.
Yeah, it really does. Just look more, I don't know, a little richer.
Hmm.
And it's really important to create contrast in your portraits. So where you see the darkest darks and the lightest lights, just making sure not to overwork that, especially with watercolor, just having a lot of patience. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do is, even though I haven't finished all of the fur on this one yet, or the first layer even so, I might add a little bit more to the brow line here, just so it looks a little more put together. But then I'm gonna jump to the nose because the nose on this one is so much fun.
Got a couple people wondering what brand of paints you use.
Yeah, so I use a variety, but mostly the Winsor & Newton professional and Cotman paint sets
Hmm.
in the tube. Pan are great too. The tube are just rich in pigment. So these I'm working with right now are a fresh squeezed out of the tube. So I just have to be careful with how much paint I grab on my brush. But yeah, so I use that brand a lot. And this QOR brand. But I haven't bought paints in a long time. They just last so long. That's like the best part about watercolors, that they'll just last forever. As long as you can keep
Hmm.
the cap on it.
Yeah.
So, all right, let me just
Oh, this is a good point from Britt Brad. I always have to do the eyes first because it keeps me going when they look nice. Otherwise, the ugly stage of a painting really gets me down.
Oh, I love that.
That's a good way to
To
look
look
at
at
it,
it.
but
I agree.
sometimes you just have to push through the ugly stage. It takes time,
Yeah,
but
yeah, I've been doing this long enough to know the different stages. And it's so true that there are those awkward moments. And it's not to say that there's been plenty of times during portraits that I'm halfway through and I'm like, I just don't know. Do I start over? And you dabble with that. And, sometimes you don't have a lot of time to recreate the painting in your workload, but I always want to make sure that it comes out to the very best it possibly can. So it doesn't happen often, but I have redone portraits up to 3 times. I have done that before. Okay, so I am working in the nose here. So I'm going to first lay down the reddish undertones of this dog's nose.
Allie, when you get a chance, is it possible just to move your workspace over a little bit so we can see more of the iPad reference? A couple people
Sure.
just want to see it at the same time.
I'll just place it right here.
If that works for you.
Yeah, definitely. For sure. And hopefully that light, it's probably a little dark for the nose to see through the iPad, but
No worries.
I'm just
A
doing
couple
one
people
here.
just, oh, sorry.
Oh, you're good.
I was just saying a couple people just wanted to see the color sources you're pulling from so they can see exactly what it looked like on the
Yeah.
reference. Yeah.
Yeah, I should have done that right away. I'm glad you said
No,
something.
no, that's okay. That's okay. I should have noticed it as well. I apologize, everybody.
Oh, this is perfect. Um, okay, so from here, the reddish tint of the nose is still wet. So I'm going to start to drop the Payne's Gray into the nose. And start to push that around. And I just kind of leave those nostrils for the end. I don't know why, but it's such a stark, dark color in there. So I like to make sure that I can see the details around it first. Doing the outer edge. And then I'll probably let this dry. There's some fun parts to this dog at the end when I get to add the white highlights against these really dark colors. So, and if I have time, I'll come back and finish the eyes.
We're almost halfway through,
Okay.
but we can go over a couple minutes and during the Q&A, if you need to still paint, I can ask you questions at the same time, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, watercolor just takes a little while to dry. So you have to kind of bop around in different areas of your portrait as
Yeah.
areas dry. So while that nose is definitely not done, I'm just gonna wait on it for a little bit because if I were to do the nostrils right now, it would bleed into the rest of the nose.
I noticed a couple people jumped in a little bit late. If you missed it at the beginning, I kind of explained that This is a demonstration of what Allie's going to be teaching you guys in her hour-and-a-half class with us on July 21st.
Yep, in the mini workshop, I'm going to go through a full portrait all the way through. This one is more about showing the overall color process that I use, mixing. So for the black lab, when you do any type of really dark, especially a black dog, it's really important to pay attention to the darkest darks. So that's the Payne's gray at its darkest. And then also working all the way down, just adding more water down to the lightest hue, and really keeping those highlights light, even though it seems like they're really dark. Another great color that I like to add within the black labs is a red mixed with the Payne's gray. So I'll just start by layering in some of the darker colors so I can define some of those areas. And then in this portrait, I'll work on the eyes so we can see those. So now I'm just going to use a really light wash of the Payne's gray. Try and even leave some whites of the paper. And then we'll drop in some darker colors where the ear kind of overlaps down here. Even some browns too will help differentiate so it's not at all kind of bluish color. Do we have a lot of watercolor artists watching right now?
I believe so. If you are somebody who tends to go more with watercolor over other mediums, let us know in the chat.
I'd be interested to know. Or what other
I think
mediums
majority of our... Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, there's a mower right outside, if that's bothering anybody.
No problem.
Or I'd be interested to know if there's other pet portrait artists what other medium they use. All right, so going to wet that dry. And then start to work the face. I like doing the darkest areas sometimes just so I can really see the contrast, so I can see where the shadows are.
All right, so we got some replies here. Watercolor, budding watercolor artist. Yes, I'm focusing mostly on watercolor, watercolor only. Awesome.
Yeah, that's great. Very cool.
Question here from Jill. What type of dog will you be painting in the mini workshop?
So the mini workshop, as of now, I'm planning to do a full tutorial on the English cream because they really do have the variety of the lights, which has always been when people comment and ask questions on my pet portraits, they're always very interested in lighter portraits and how you achieve that. So that's my plan right now, is to do the English cream, a really light dog. Okay. I'm just trying to get the face kind of popping a little bit, but I'm actually going to jump into the eyes as of now. And for this one, I think it'll be helpful. I'm working on a smaller scale than normal. So
yeah, actually, we just got a question of if this is the regular size that you do most portraits.
no, this would be, I would say at least double this is the 8x10 size. I have done smaller 5x7s, but I really try and keep it and encourage the 8x10 or even larger. So what I'm doing now is outlining the dog's eye so I can see kind of what the shape I'm working with. So it doesn't have to be super defined right now, but I just want to see the shape. So there's going to be some red areas in there. Yeah. Start to. Sorry if that mower noise is bothering anybody.
It's all good. I just put it in the chat. We apologize for the mowing sound. Unexpected.
Very
It
unexpected.
luckily Zoom cuts out a lot of higher pitched noises, so we just hear it at like a minimal volume. It's more of like a humming.
Okay. That's cool. Of course they thought of that.
Yeah, it's nice too when people like, let's say, need to use a blow dryer or something, it cuts it out.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oops. So if you, this is kind of a fun little tidbit. It's not going to matter in this dog, but I kind of got a little bit outside of my eye line here. If you ever needed to smooth it out or mop up paint that you didn't want there, I just take a fresh clean brush and then with just clean water, swipe away at that. That'll really depend, the lifting technique will really depend on the type of paper you use. So 100% cotton. I always use 100% cotton on my pet portraits.
That's a good point.
Yeah, it really truly, your paper above all things, paints, brushes, your paper is truly, I believe, is the most important and will make the biggest difference in your outcome.
If anybody is curious about our paper and sketchbook line, I just am going to drop a link right now.
Yeah.
We do have 100% cotton paper. Oh, we just got somebody signed up for the mini workshop. Yay!
Yay! I'm so excited. That's awesome.
If anybody missed the link that I previously posted for it, I'll put it in again so you can join Kathy, who just signed up.
Very cool. So now that my outline has dried for the most part, I'm dropping in the, working on now the iris and everything of the dog's eye. It's really important to work lighter and you can always build it up.
Do you strictly use watercolor or sometimes do you go in for details with like colored pencils after you use a little mixed media?
I don't use any mixed media. This would be the only thing that I would say is mixed media. So when I go back to my English cream up here, using like the whites in the whiskers or the highlights of the eye, this bleed proof white or any gouache paint is really a great one to have on hand. There was a while in the beginning of my pet portrait journey that I didn't use any type of white, opaque white paint, and it really has been a game changer for when it comes to lifelike details.
Mm-hmm.
So I really do my best to leave as much white in the eye as possible, but that I don't get too nervous about because I know that I will be able to go back and add in the bleed proof white where I feel like needs the brightest white highlight. So I'm just using my little 00 to wipe up some of that color because I can always add it back in while it's wet. The smaller the portrait, the smaller the brush you want to work with. So I'm just going to hop back to my 00. And then some orange and pinkish red colors. So I love to mix an orange with a red, give kind of that salmony color that you're going to see in the eye, in the corners. Can even add a little umber to that. So that's what I would do for now, because I can always go back and add in more details, but I don't want to overdo it at this point. So I do like to finish at least one eye before finishing the other one.
Just like the symmetry. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I would say just to kind of get a good feel for what an eye is going to look like. I've always had questions on why I focus and really finish out one area versus, you know, laying down layers consistently throughout the whole portrait. And for me, it just really helps to see one part come to life, get my palette together in the contrast, and then work my way around.
That's one thing that always gets me with portraits is the symmetry.
Yeah, it really does help to have your sketch exactly, you know, just how you like it. Going into the painting, I always have a sketch. So I'm just going to kind of work this eye so it looks more lifelike. And really leaving whites of the paper. So when this dog is finished, there really will be this light of a light paint left at the end in contrast to the darkest darks.
Oh, it looks like we got another sign-up sign-up-y.
Oh, awesome.
Pam, thanks for signing up.
Yeah, thank you. That's awesome. I'm excited.
Make sure to share the class link with any friends that you think would be interested in learning how to paint dog portraits in watercolor. It's super fun to have people, you know, join the class.
Yeah, that's the really fun part about online classes.
Mm-hmm.
That you can join your friends and family from all over.
Yeah, that is true.
In-person workshops. So it is harder, you know.
Mm-hmm. Especially like with today's climate, how you have to limit your groups and.
Yes. Yeah. It's been fun to learn more of the online space over the last year.
Yeah, it's definitely different, but it has its like benefits as well.
Yeah, it really, really does.
Got a lot of good questions here saved for the Q&A that I'll start in about 10 minutes.
Okay, sounds great. So then I will go ahead and hop down to my last portrait. It does get kind of scary where you have missing features of your dogs throughout the portrait. There are definitely those scary phases. I've done a full portrait and left the eyes for the very, very end. And I'll post pictures on my Instagram and people are like, oh my gosh. Okay.
And for those wondering, Allie is going to walk us through a full pet portrait in the mini workshop. She's just showing how she goes about doing different features on different styles of dogs.
Yep.
Oh, just saw a comment. I don't feel good enough to take part in the mini workshop. Oh, you shouldn't feel like that. Allie's going to take you step by step and show you each process slowly at your pace. This is a demonstration at her own pace. So if it feels a little bit intimidating, please don't be. In the mini workshop, it is a little bit longer, so she will have time to take you through a full portrait step by step.
Yeah, definitely do not be afraid. You have to get started. If you really, truly are excited and interested, just starting. I wish I could show you today the journey of where I started to where I am now. And it's every portrait. Not that it necessarily gets better, but your style does change and you do start to find new techniques just with more practice and experience. So highly encouraged just to get started. And it's never too late just to get started and give it a try.
Mm-hmm. We also try to formulate our workshops for beginners, more beginner to intermediate levels. So if you're a little worried about your skill, please don't be, because we formulate these workshops to try to help beginners.
Yes, I will very much break it down. I just want to give a little taste today. So I'm working on, oops, we gotta move, carefully move this over here, a curly dog, and they truly are the most fun. So when it comes to laying down the first layers of any type of wavy curly dog, I really do make sure it's not a full flat color like I did on these other dogs. I will start to stroke my brush in the direction of their hair and leaving white areas as the highlights. So you get to see this one come to life faster than you would other breeds of dogs because you're already starting to see the curls happen.
The color tone almost looks like if you were to paint with coffee. Have you ever done that?
No, I haven't. Have you?
I tried, but I do not like the smell or taste of coffee.
Oh,
and apparently, yeah, and apparently painting with instant coffee, the smell is very strong.
Oh boy.
So I just couldn't. It gave me a headache.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say I'm at least a coffee lover, so I'm willing to give it a try.
You should. I really liked the colors and the tones that came out of it, but I just couldn't. Maybe I'll try with tea.
Oh yeah, there's got to be some really pretty colors with tea. I would love to someday work with more of the natural pigments. They do, every time you buy this is what I always encourage, every time you buy any type of new paint, a yellow ochre on one brand is going to look different than a different brand.
Mm-hmm.
So you definitely want to play with it before hopping into a commission painting or any painting that you're, doing for work or
yeah. Always good to test it out.
It really is. So this is just the first layer of this ear. It really will get more work and texture, but It is fun to start to see the colors and the waves come to life. And how these.
If anybody is, oh, sorry.
Oh, no, you're okay. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, if anybody is curious as to what your Instagram handle is, I just put a link for it in the chat.
Awesome. Okay, great. Yeah, I'm challenging myself in July to painting a dog a day.
Nice.
Yeah, so that is coming up here pretty quick.
It is.
But I'll definitely be doing that in a different style than what I'm teaching here. That one, that challenge will be quicker studies.
Mm-hmm.
This is definitely more of my style here and being as detailed as I possibly can for realistic dog portraits. And so I think I just want to, before we get to the Q&A, I just want to show some white highlights quick with the bleed proof white on some of these earlier portraits that we did.
Is it like an acrylic paint?
It's technically an ink.
Okay.
Mine has gotten a little bit dried up, but it is a water-based. It's so similar to gouache, if anybody has used that, or an acrylic feel, but it is, it dilutes with water. So if it does get hard, you can bring it back to life.
Oh, so it's more of like not acrylic gouache, the other one, I can't remember, like regular gouache.
Yeah, yes, water-based.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then where a portrait really starts to pop at the end is when you get to put in these tiny little whisker hairs. And that's where I use my bleed proof white with a 00 brush. And it just helps to blend any dark areas into the light areas. And then you can always go back and use a darker color again to give more of those dark whisker textures. But definitely a game changer once I started using gouache or this bleed proof white.
And I'm pretty sure it was the Dr. P.H. Martin's, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was just wondering the brand.
Yep. And then for the eyes too is a huge spot that I use. The bleed proof white. So I did a pretty good job leaving some white areas, but it is nice to just go through and add some extra highlights. Can even work this area down here. So, and then you can kind of fan out some hairs here. Or add them into your really dark areas. Is everybody able to see the detail here? Okay.
I can kind of see it, but if at some point you want to maybe raise your or do that, that's good too. Yeah, there we go.
I'll be sure to do that on the mini workshop. Get nice and close.
For sure.
All the details.
You're also going to be doing a larger portrait, I think, on the mini workshop, right?
Yep. Yep. True to scale of what I normally work with.
Mm-hmm.
So I think at this point, I'm just going to continue to kind of hop around since we covered pretty much of everything I wanted to as far as color mixing and different features. Anybody has questions?
Yeah, I can start the Q&A. So someone was wondering, how do you paint? So a white dog, you kind of showed a white Labrador, but it has yellowish tones. What about like a very, very, very white dog, like a Belgium Malinois, I think they said?
Yep. So when it comes to a very, very white dog, the hues you see here, that really light Payne's gray, is a go-to for me. It really comes down to shadow making with really light dogs. So really light colors that typically take on those blue shadow hues. Again, then the contrast of their features helps a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And the highlights of the bleed proof white at the end. But you'll be so surprised about how much darkness you need to have inside of a really light dog on where the shadows happen.
Right. That is, yeah, that's true. Because even if it's like a pure white dog, he's going to have darkness in areas to show depth. And
Yeah. Yep.
do you have a favorite watercolor artist?
Oh, so many. And Instagram has helped with that.
Mm-hmm. It's a hard question.
I do. And you know, they're young artists similar to who I would, you know, definitely look up to.
Mm-hmm.
Grace Manning, she does amazing skin work, skin tone work. Let's see, I'm blanking on a few others.
It's hard when you're put on the spot.
It is. Let me come back to that because I adore so many.
Yeah, no problem. Next question. Did you always have a good eye for reproducing life images, or did you have to work on it?
I would say I have had a natural act for it, and ever since I was younger, really lifelike people portraiture, usually black and white drawings. I worked on a lot. Then I moved to color pencil. Everything I did was in the drawing realm. But I would say that it's always been my go-to style when it comes to painting animals and people. I really love lifelike types of paintings and work. I might back this up a little bit just so I can see.
Yeah, no problem. It's probably really in your face.
I know, it's always the tricky part when you go to record.
Yeah. I apologize if anybody hears that alarm going off. I think they're testing the fire alarm in my building. I didn't know that was happening today, so I apologize.
Oh, no. Is it just a test?
I think it's just a test. Yeah, I don't think it's a real fire. So.
Oh goodness.
Do you usually do a value study or sketch prior to the beginning of your painting?
I don't, only because I usually just I have saved a bunch of test strips from cutting down paper, and I'll just practice my color palette on a little test strip of paper. But I don't do studies. I used to in the beginning, but not as much anymore, I will say.
So yeah, you just kind of have swatches that you know what the color looks like.
Yep. Yeah, I've gotten pretty good at color mixing over the years, I will say.
Just got another question here. What is your favorite brand for Payne's?
For Payne's Gray. Is that what you said? Payne's Gray?
Yeah, sorry. I've just been muting myself right after I asked the question.
Yeah. The Winsor & Newton professional paint set. Definitely recommend the Payne's Gray. And then the Van
Still have
Dyke
a few
brown.
minutes here. Oh, sorry.
Those are the two I would definitely recommend having in a palette for dogs.
Sorry, what was the second?
The Van Dyke brown.
And with those two colors, you can create a good array of tones.
Yeah. Yep. Let's say these three right here.
So we just have a few minutes left. If anybody has any other questions, don't be shy.
Yeah.
What are your favorite brand of brushes?
So I have used the Winsor and Newton brushes, and I really do love that. It was actually a Cotman brand brush. Not sure if I have it. This is a flat. Oh yeah, I do. But this is actually so similar to the Etcher set. So I really have enjoyed using the Etcher set paint brushes. As you can tell, there is a difference as far as how tall the bristles are on the brushes. And that can make a difference for how much control you want. So how much spring it gives you. Sometimes the shorter the brush and the more detailed you can get. So just kind of deciding on where you're working and how much detail you really need. I'll work with a shorter tipped brush.
Yeah, and if anybody's wondering about our brushes, I put a link for the Etcher brushes in the chat. They are vegan and synthetic brushes. All of our products are vegan and sustainably made. If anybody is curious, I just put a link.
Nice.
So I just put a link for the demo survey. If you don't mind filling it out, it takes less than 2 minutes. It's multiple choice. It just kind of helps us improve content for future demos and workshops. If there was things that you think that we can improve on. Again, I apologize for the annoying alarm in the background. That will not happen on future ones. If if you have any points that you want to mention or things that you want to see in the future, please let us know in the survey. Or if you know you want to just tell us how great we did and how much you loved me and Allie, that's okay too. I'm perfectly good with that.
Would appreciate it.
Question, will she explain how to draw your own pet to paint?
I would love to. I think that's a great idea. I can, I'll go through the very beginning process of sketching and how I do that you'll be able to do with your own pet portrait or your own pet's photo.
Yeah, so she'll do more of that in the mini workshop. Again, I'll put a link just in case you missed it earlier. And again, I apologize for the alarm. I'm so sorry. I don't know if you guys can hear it.
Hopefully it's just a test.
I think so, but at this point it's been going on for a while, so I'm not sure.
No.
Another question, what pencil or medium does she use to draw her base before painting?
Nothing fancy, just the good old mechanical pencil. But you can get, I would say anywhere from like a 2H to an HB is kind of the general basic lead density that I would recommend.
Awesome. So I'm going to flip it back to a gallery view here because we just hit the hour mark. Thank you everybody for coming and joining us. Thank you for the amazing questions. I just noticed, what is the cost of the mini workshop? It's different depending on what currency you're in. I'm in Canadian dollars, so I think it's about $8 or $9 in Canadian, but I think American it's $5 or $6. So if you're curious, that is for the hour-and-a-half workshop. You get a whole lot of value for that price. That's one thing I've been seeing often on the feedback. I'm not just saying that to try to promote you to buy it, but something that we see very, very often in the feedback is they can't believe the value for the class. Like, you receive so much information for what it costs. Thank you everybody for joining. My name is Brittany and I was your studio host today. And thank you again, Allie Royston. That's how you pronounce your last name?
Yep, that's perfect.
If you're curious about her Instagram, I will drop it again for you guys. Yeah, so someone just confirmed it is $6 US and they just signed up.
Awesome. That's great. Yeah, it really will be very, very in-depth. So it really, I enjoy teaching, so I'm excited to teach pet portraiture.
Yeah, we're excited to have you teaching it. Pet portraits are something that you can, if you're an artist and you're looking for a little bit of an edge to maybe get more commissions or something, pet portrait is definitely something that will help get you there. A lot of people love getting pet portraits done. It's something really special that they can have of their pet forever. So if you're somebody who maybe is trying to get more into the commission game, this is a great thing to learn.
Yes, very much so. Holiday times and special gifts like that, they are very desired.
Alrighty, thank you everybody for joining. I am going to be ending the stream any moment now. Again, I will just drop the link for the survey and the mini workshop. Again, just in case anybody missed it, it is an hour-and-a-half long and is on July 21st. Reading some comments here. Thank you for the demo. Everybody loved it.
Awesome.
Can't wait to sign up for your mini workshop.
That's great. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Kat, for the concern. I will be ending this soon and checking out what's going on with that fire alarm.
I agree.
I think it is a test. They do sometimes really long tests like these. So thank you for the concern. I will end the stream now. Bye, everybody. Make sure you check out Allie's Instagram and the mini workshop link if you're curious about learning more about dog portraits. Bye, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks, Brittany.
Okay, I just ended it.
Okay.